The cold of a Portland winter has a certain sound. It's the crunch of frozen snow under a boot, the whistle of wind through barren branches, the eerie silence of a world that's decided to hold its breath. But on Christmas night, I learned a new kind of cold. A deeper, quieter, more personal cold. It's the sound of your own father's voice, sharp enough to shatter the crystal glasses on the dining table, telling you and the man who raised him that you are no longer welcome in the only home you've ever known. My name is Alina Vance, and that Christmas, the carefully constructed illusion of my family, the Vance family, didn't just crack. It exploded. The turkey was dry. The string quartet was playing a somber version of a cheerful carol. The air was thick with the unspoken tension that always accompanied my grandfather's presence. Grandpa Leo, my rock, my best friend, sat in his wheelchair at the grand table, his hands trembling with the gentle, persistent shake that had become his new normal. A single small piece of white meat slipped from his fork and landed a solitary stain on the pristine ivory tablecloth. The music didn't just stop, it died. My father, Charles Vance, stood so fast his chair screeched against the marble floor like a scream. Enough, he snarled, his face a mask of pure contempt. I will not have this. This spectacle at my table. Not on Christmas. Before I could form a word of protest, he was behind Grandpa Leo's chair, shoving him away from the table. Charles, what are you doing? My mother whispered, her face pale. He ignored her. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my skin with a bruising force, and propelled me after my grandfather. If you want to babysit the invalid Alina, you can do it outside. The massive oak front door swung open, and the biting wind swallowed us whole. He didn't just usher us out, he expelled us. One final violent shove on the back of the wheelchair sent Grandpa Leo lurching forward onto the icy driveway. And I stumbled after him, catching myself on the cold metal of his chair. The door slammed shut with a finality that echoed in my soul. The laughter and clinking glasses from inside immediately resumed, a cruel soundtrack to our exile. I looked at Grandpa Leo. Snow was already gathering in the folds of the thin blanket on his lap. His breathing was quick and shallow, a sure sign he was terrified, but trying to be brave for me. Alina, he whispered, his voice raspy. Are you all right? I wasn't, but I nodded, my own breath forming frantic clouds in the air. I pounded on the door, the wood cold and unyielding against my fists. Dad, open the door. He'll freeze out here. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass. My father's voice, clear and cold as the ice on the windows, filtered through. Don't worry, everyone. Just taking out the trash. The trash, that's what we were. A tear, hot and angry, finally escaped and froze on my cheek. I turned back to my grandfather, my heart shattering into a million pieces. I knelt beside him, my knees sinking into the fresh snow. It's okay, Grandpa. I've got you. I'm taking you home. He reached out a trembling, cold hand and placed it on mine. His eyes, usually so bright with wisdom, were dim with a pain I couldn't fully comprehend. I am so sorry, my dear girl, he whispered. I never meant for you to see this. But I had seen it. I had seen the monstrous man my father could become. And as I pushed my grandfather's wheelchair down that long, dark, icy driveway, away from the golden warmth of the mansion, I made a silent vow. This was not the end of our story. It was only the beginning. My apartment was a single, shivering room above a laundromat that always smelled of cheap detergent and damp concrete. The moment we stumbled inside, the ancient radiator gave a final dying hiss and fell silent. A perfect, cruel punchline to the worst night of our lives. I rushed to get Grandpa Leo near the dead vents, rubbing his frozen hands between mine, my own fingers numb. Just sit tight, Grandpa. I'll make some tea. He nodded, trying to offer a brave smile, but his lips had a terrifying bluish tint. I've survived worse, Ellie, he whispered, using the childhood nickname that only he remembered. I looked around the cramped space, the peeling paint, the single bare bulb, the stack of overdue bills on the counter. It was a world away. From the Vance family mansion, a world of struggle I had chosen to escape my father's control. A world that now felt like a sanctuary and a prison all at once. Grandpa's eyes, clouded with pain, scanned the room. "Ellie," he said, his voice cracking, "I shouldn't be here. I'm a burden. You should just put me in a home." The word hit me like a physical blow. No, the word was sharp, final. I knelt before him, gripping his frail hands, forcing him to look at me. "You are not going anywhere. You are my family. You are staying with me." A single tear traced a path through the wrinkles on his cheek. That night, I heated a can of soup on my hot plate, the only warm meal I could offer. I fed him slowly, watching the tremors in his hands make the spoon waver. "Ellie, you're working yourself to the bone," he murmured, his eyes full of a sorrow that went deeper than the cold. I was a barista by day and a night shift proofreader by, well, night. My body ached with a constant, dull fatigue. My savings were evaporating. But looking at him, none of it mattered. "I'm fine, Grandpa," I lied. "We're fine." At 3 a.m., after he'd finally fallen into a fitful sleep, I collapsed. Onto the pile of blankets beside his wheelchair, my own body screaming for rest. I felt his hand then, gently brushing the hair from my forehead. "You shouldn't have to sacrifice your life for me," he whispered into the darkness. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "It's not a sacrifice," I said, my voice thick with sleep and emotion. "You're the only real family I have." That night, the memory of his gentle touch and the weight of his guilt became a permanent part of me. We were two castaways, sharing warmth in a world that had gone cold. I thought we had reached the bottom, that this was the defining struggle of our lives. I was wrong. We were merely in the eye of the storm. A week later, on a gray, slushy morning, Grandpa Leo looked up from his crossword puzzle, his eyes suddenly clear and focused. "Ellie," he said, his voice carrying a strange, new steadiness, "I need you to take me somewhere today." I froze, the dishcloth in my hand still dripping. He hadn't asked to leave the apartment since the incident. "Where?" I asked, my guard instinctively going up. "You'll see," was all he said. There was a resoluteness in his tone, a flicker of the powerful man I remembered from old stories. It was the tone of someone who had made a decision long ago and was finally ready to see it through. I helped him into the passenger seat of my beat-up sedan, bundled him in blankets, and wrestled his wheelchair into the trunk. When I started the car, he didn't give me an address, simply pointed a trembling finger. "Drive, head towards the hills." We left my neighborhood behind, past the diner where I worked, past the 24-hour office where I proofread legal documents, past the entire landscape of my struggle. The city melted away, replaced by winding roads lined with towering pines and gated driveways that spoke of old, secluded money. "Grandpa, where are we going?" "Ask again," a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. He just laid a hand on my arm. "Just a little further, Ellie. Trust me." Finally, we arrived at a pair of immense wrought iron gates, ornate and imposing, set between two massive stone pillars. A discreet placard read, "Blackwood Estate." I slowed the car to a stop. "Grandpa, this is a private estate. We can't go in here." Before I could put the car in reverse, the heavy iron gates began to swing inward, silently, smoothly, as if they had been expecting us.